No one in the hallway knew the truth about her past. Not yet. And the moment his boot struck her side, the secret she'd tried to bury began to rise like a storm. The commotion started in the sunlit training corridor, dust drifting lazily through the warm daytime air as the new cadet stepped quietly along the wall. She thought her first week would be uneventful, invisible even, but she was wrong. 3 soldiers blocked her path, their laughter echoing through the bright space, and before she could react, one of them kicked her sharply in the hip, sending a tremor of pain up her side. The other recruits nearby froze, unsure whether to intervene or pretend they hadn't seen anything. They had no idea who she truly was, or what she was capable of. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. For a moment she stayed still. Her eyes lowered, the sunlight outlining her as if the day itself waited for her response. The laughter around her continued, but beneath it, she could hear the faint hum of the ventilation system, the shuffle of boots, the murmur of uncertain witnesses. Her heart pounded with a familiar rhythm. Not fear, but restraint. She had promised herself she wouldn't draw attention. Not here. Not again. But the soldier who kicked her wasn't done. "Hey, new girl," he sneered, stepping closer. "You gonna cry?" Or, he never finished. She straightened slowly, every movement measured, as if she weighed each possible outcome. Anger simmered under her calm exterior, but deeper still was something heavier, the fear of losing control, of revealing the black belt world champion she used to be. A title she'd abandoned after a devastating loss she never spoke about. She thought she'd never face that world again. She was wrong. Murmurs spread down the hallway, others stepped out of their rooms, drawn by the shift in the air. Even the birds outside seemed to quiet, as if the base itself sensed the tension gathering like heat. The soldier reached for her shoulder, and that was the final mistake. With a single fluid motion, she pivoted sideways, his hand slicing through empty air. Another step, and she redirected his weight with a subtle twist of her wrist. He stumbled, shocked, almost falling. Gasps rose around them, sharp, almost musical, bouncing off the walls. She didn't strike, she didn't shout, she simply held her ground with a stillness so powerful, it made every person watching feel suddenly small. "Don't," she said softly. It wasn't a threat, it was a plea. A moral boundary she hoped he wouldn't force her to cross. For a fleeting second, guilt flickered through him. He hadn't expected resistance. He certainly hadn't expected mastery, but pride flooded back just as quickly, and he lunged again. This time, she stepped aside like drifting wind, letting his momentum betray him. He stumbled forward, catching himself awkwardly, boots scraping loudly across the polished floor. The crowd widened into a circle, a human arena formed by stunned recruits and curious onlookers. Someone whispered, "She moved like a pro." Another murmured, "Who is she?" But the climax cresting over them was not about humiliation. It was about truth. The commanding officer appeared at the far end of the hallway, the sun framing him in blinding gold. He moved with purpose, the surrounding cadets snapping into stillness. His gaze swept the scene, stern but perceptive, settling finally on her. "I know that stance," he said quietly. "World champion. 5 years running." A ripple of shock passed through the crowd like a wave. Her eyes widened. She hadn't realized anyone here would recognize her. She felt exposed, vulnerable, yet oddly liberated. The officer stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You didn't retaliate," he said. "That shows more strength than any trophy." The soldier who kicked her swallowed hard, shame washing over him, as the reality of what he'd done settled heavily on his shoulders. He muttered an apology, halting, awkward, but sincere. She nodded, accepting it, offering him something he didn't expect: grace. The hallway softened, sunlight warmed the walls. Conversations resumed in hushed tones as recruits dispersed, carrying with them a story they would never forget. Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And in that bright hallway, her silence told a truth louder than any victory roar she'd ever given. If you enjoyed this story, drop a comment, share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting tales told just for you.